Welcome to my channel, where we make learning English easy, fun, and accessible for everyone. My name is Ariel, and I'll be your guide as we embark on this exciting journey together. Hi, today, I want to share something important: how you can speak English better than ever before. If you've ever felt stuck, like no matter how much you study, speaking still feels challenging, you're not alone. Many learners experience the same frustration. But here's the good news: you can improve, and it doesn't have to take years. In fact, with the right techniques, you can start speaking better right away. Have you ever wondered what sets fluent speakers apart from beginners? It's not that fluent speakers know every word or never make mistakes. In fact, they make mistakes all the time. The real difference is confidence. Fluent speakers believe in their ability to communicate, even when they don't know every word or grammar rule. They don't freeze when they forget a word. They keep going, and that's what makes them sound fluent. Imagine this: you're in a conversation and the words just flow. You're not thinking about grammar. You're not hesitating. You're simply speaking. That's the goal. But how do you achieve that? Let me share something that might surprise you. Small adjustments in how you practice can make a significant difference. You don't have to completely overhaul your study routine, and you don't need to learn thousands of new words. What you need are a few straightforward techniques that will help you speak with assurance. So, what's the first step? It's establishing the foundation of fluency, which begins with confidence. If you don't feel assured, it's challenging to speak well. But confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop, and I'm going to show you how. Here's the truth: anyone can speak better than they did before, regardless of their current level. If you've struggled with English, or if you've been hesitant to speak, this podcast is for you. We'll go step by step, breaking down the process into simple techniques you can start using today. By the end, you'll be speaking English more confidently than ever before. But before we dive into the techniques, let's discuss why confidence is so crucial. When your confidence is high, you're not afraid to make mistakes. You speak freely. And even when you stumble, you learn from it. Each time you practice speaking, you're building not just your language skills, but also your confidence. Here's a quote I love from Winston Churchill: "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." This is especially true when it comes to speaking English. The more you speak, the more confident you become, and the more your fluency improves. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I don't feel confident yet? Don't worry. That's completely normal. Confidence comes from practice. The more you speak, the better you'll get, and the more assured you'll feel. Let me give you a small challenge to get started. Set a goal to speak English every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. You can practice with a friend, a family member, or even by yourself. The key is to begin speaking, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. In the upcoming chapters, we'll break down exactly how you can build confidence and improve your speaking skills. We'll cover listening techniques, shadowing, repetition, and even some enjoyable ways to practice. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. But there's a technique that will really help you take the first big step toward fluency. It's something that most learners overlook, but it's the secret to improving faster than you think. Chapter 2. The Power of Active Listening. Now that we've talked about building confidence, let's explore the first key technique that will truly help you speak better. Active listening. You might think that speaking fluently is all about talking, but here's the truth. You can't speak well unless you listen well. Listening is the foundation of fluency. Think about this. When you listen, you're not just hearing words, you're learning how sentences flow, how native speakers connect ideas, and how certain words are pronounced. When you master listening, you'll find that speaking becomes easier and more natural. It's like equipping your brain with the right tools before you start building. But not just any listening will do. You need to practice active listening. This means truly paying attention to what you hear. You don't just let the words pass by. You focus on them, break them down, and absorb how they're used. Here's an example. When you're listening to a podcast, a story, or even pay attention to how the speaker is structuring their sentences. Are they using short phrases or long sentences? How do they pronounce certain words? How do they convey their ideas? Active listening means noticing these details and learning from them. One of the best ways to practice active listening is through shadowing, a technique where you listen to a speaker and immediately repeat what they say. It's like being their shadow, following their words closely. This is a powerful method to enhance both your listening and speaking skills simultaneously. To practice shadowing, first choose a podcast or story that's not too long or difficult. You can find excellent stories for beginners on my website. Next, listen carefully to a short sentence or phrase, paying attention to the speaker's rhythm, tone, and pronunciation. Then, as soon as the speaker finishes a sentence, pause the audio and repeat what they said, trying to match their speed and intonation. Keep repeating this process for a few minutes each day, and you'll notice improvements in your pronunciation and fluency over time. Shadowing helps you get used to speaking without overthinking. You're not translating in your head, just repeating what you hear, which builds fluency naturally. But don't worry about being perfect. When shadowing, you may make mistakes, miss words, or mispronounce things, and that's okay. The goal is to feel comfortable speaking without hesitation. The more you shadow, the more fluent you'll become. One of my students, Maria, was very shy about speaking English and rarely spoke due to her fear of mistakes. I introduced her to shadowing, and it changed everything for her. She began practicing by repeating sentences from podcasts and, after a few weeks, noticed that her sentences flowed more easily. Shadowing helped her build confidence, and soon she was speaking without fear. There's a great quote by Stephen R. Covey. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Active listening teaches you to truly understand, making speaking easier. But active listening and shadowing are just the beginning. There's another technique that will help you take your fluency further, which is all about repetition. In the next chapter, I'll show you how repeating what you hear can make speaking English feel as natural as breathing. We've discussed the power of active listening and shadowing, so now let's move to repetition, which may seem simple but is incredibly effective. Repetition is how your brain learns to speak fluently without hesitation. When you repeat words and phrases, you train your brain to remember them quickly. The more you repeat, the more natural the words feel, allowing you to say them without thinking. It's like learning to ride a bike or memorize a song. You do it repeatedly until it becomes second nature. Speaking English is no different. Fluency isn't just about knowing a lot of words. It's about using the words you know quickly and easily. Repetition helps you reach a point where you don't have to stop and think about grammar or vocabulary. You just speak. One of my students, John, knew many English words but often hesitated when speaking because he had to think about what to say. I introduced him to the repetition technique, where he would take 5 common phrases in English and repeat each one 5 times daily. It seemed boring at first, but after a week, John noticed he could say those phrases easily and without hesitation. Repetition had worked its magic. To improve your speaking using repetition, start by picking common phrases you use often, like, "How are you?" or "What's your name?" Repeat these phrases out loud multiple times to help your brain get used to saying them quickly. This can be done while walking, cooking, or even in front of a mirror. The goal is to make these phrases feel natural. Use the mirror technique by standing in front of a mirror and saying the same sentence 5 times, watching your mouth move, focusing on pronunciation, and getting used to seeing yourself speak English. This technique not only enhances your fluency, but also builds confidence, as it feels like practicing with someone else. You can also combine shadowing with repetition for double the impact. When you shadow a podcast or story, repeat the sentences as closely as you can to the original speaker, and then, after shadowing a few sentences, repeat those sentences again on your own. This is where the power of repetition shines, turning what you hear into what you can easily say. A quote by Aristotle captures this perfectly. "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Repeating phrases, sentences, and words turns speaking English into a habit, leading to fluency. Another way to practice repetition is by recording yourself. Choose a short passage from a podcast or story and read it aloud. Then listen to your recording and repeat the sentences again. This not only aids fluency, but also allows you to track your progress over time. Remember, you don't have to repeat long paragraphs or difficult phrases. Start small with simple sentences like, "I'm going to the store," or "Can you help me?" Small, consistent practice leads to significant improvements. Repetition doesn't have to be boring. You can mix it up by using different contexts. For example, practice the same sentence in the morning and again in the evening, but pretend you're in different situations, like talking to a friend or ordering food. Repetition is powerful because it builds confidence. The more you repeat something, the more comfortable you feel saying it, making your words flow naturally. However, repetition is just one piece of the puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to make practice fun, turning speaking English into something you look forward to every day instead of something that feels like hard work. Speaking English doesn't have to feel like a chore. The more enjoyable your practice, the faster you'll improve. When learning is fun, you naturally want to do it more often. This chapter focuses on transforming your English practice into an activity you anticipate every day. Instead of forcing yourself to study, imagine actually enjoying speaking English. It's not about studying grammar rules or memorizing words. It's about having fun and feeling excited to use what you've learned. So, how do you make practice enjoyable? Let's explore a few techniques. One effective method is role-playing, which allows you to step into real conversations. You can act out different situations as if you're really there, such as ordering coffee at a cafe, having a job interview, or meeting new friends at a party. By role-playing, you practice real-life conversations in a low-pressure, enjoyable way. Start by picking a common situation where you might need to speak English, like asking for directions or ordering food. Then, create a dialogue by writing down a few sentences you might need in that scenario. Act it out, either alone or with a friend, pretending you're in the actual place and using the sentences you prepared. Role-playing helps you become comfortable with everyday phrases and situations, making it feel more like acting than studying, which is much more enjoyable. One of my students, Awa, used to feel bored practicing English alone, but after I introduced her to role-playing, her practice sessions became much more engaging. Excited by her practice, Awa imagined herself traveling, ordering food, and meeting new people, all while improving her English without even realizing she was studying. Another way to make practice fun is by talking about your passions. Think about something you love, whether it's a hobby, sport, favorite movie, or book. When discussing topics that interest you, the words flow more easily, and your motivation to keep speaking increases. For example, if you enjoy cooking, try discussing your favorite recipes in English. Describe how to prepare your favorite dish or pretend you're teaching someone how to cook. The key is to choose a topic that excites you, making your practice more engaging. As Albert Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. When you practice speaking about things you love, you tap into your creativity, making the process more enjoyable and effective. You can also incorporate speaking games into your practice. Language learning can definitely be a game. There are many speaking games you can play alone or with a partner that challenge you to think and speak in English in a fun, light-hearted way. For example, try 20 questions where you think of an object, and your partner has to ask yes or no questions to guess what it is. If you're practicing alone, switch roles after each question. Another option is charades, where you act out a word or phrase in English without speaking, and your partner guesses what it is. You can also set a timer for 1 minute and see how long you can talk about a specific topic without pausing, which helps with fluency and speed. These games encourage quick thinking and speaking without overthinking, making practice enjoyable. Additionally, using podcasts and stories can keep your practice fun. Listening to engaging content not only enhances your listening skills, but also provides great material for discussion afterward. After listening, try summarizing the story in your own words or discussing it with a friend. You can find many excellent stories and podcasts on thesterspeak.online, designed to help learners like you improve their English. Choose a topic that interests you, listen to the story, and then practice speaking about it, allowing you to learn from captivating content while enhancing your speaking skills. Adam struggled with staying motivated to practice speaking, but once he began listening to podcasts about his favorite topics, like technology and travel, he found that discussing them came naturally. He would listen to an episode and then practice explaining it to himself or others, making his practice both effective and enjoyable. Changing your environment can also make practice more exciting. Instead of sitting at a desk, try practicing in different locations. Go for a walk and describe what you see in English, or sit in a cafe and pretend you're having a conversation with the barista. Bringing your practice into real-world settings keeps things fresh and helps you get comfortable speaking English in everyday situations. Additionally, don't forget to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Did you speak in English for 5 minutes without stopping? Did you successfully role-play a conversation? Recognizing your achievements is a great way to stay motivated. As B.F. Skinner said, "A person who feels appreciated will always do more than what is expected." This applies to yourself, too. The more you appreciate your own progress, the more motivated you'll be to keep improving. You might be wondering what to do if you hit a wall or feel stuck. Don't worry, that's completely normal. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to break through those speaking blocks and keep moving forward even when it feels tough. One of the biggest reasons people feel blocked in the learning process is the fear of making mistakes. Here's a secret: even native speakers make errors. What matters is that you keep speaking. The more you do, the more confident you'll become, making it easier to push through those blocks. To overcome the fear of mistakes, imagine you're in a conversation and suddenly forget a word or say something wrong. Instead of freezing or stopping entirely, keep talking. Don't worry about getting every word right. Just focus on communicating your message. If you can't remember a word, try to describe it another way. One of my students, Anthony, was so worried about making mistakes that he would freeze up whenever he tried to speak English. I explained that mistakes are not failures, but opportunities to learn. We worked on building his confidence through simple conversations, and I encouraged him to keep speaking even when unsure of the right words. Over time, Anthony realized that the more he spoke, the more his confidence grew, and the less those mistakes affected him. As Henry Ford said, "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." Each mistake is a chance to improve for next time. When you don't have anyone to practice with, self-talk can be your best tool for breaking through speaking blocks. This simple yet powerful technique involves talking to yourself in English out loud, as if you're having a conversation. You can do this while cooking, walking, or getting ready for bed. Describe your day, talk about what you did, or plan what you'll do tomorrow. Ask yourself questions, like what you want for dinner, and then answer in English. You can also practice situations, imagining you're at a restaurant or meeting someone new. One of my students, Lucy, felt blocked because she didn't have a speaking partner, but after I introduced her to self-talk, she began practicing English every day. While doing her morning routine, Lucy noticed that her confidence grew, and speaking English felt more natural. One effective technique to push through speaking blocks is shadowing, which we've discussed before. When you feel stuck, shadowing can help you move forward by listening to a podcast or story and repeating what the speaker says. This practice allows you to engage with real conversation patterns without the pressure of creating your own sentences. Start with short, simple sentences and gradually work up to longer conversations. Shadowing builds fluency by combining listening and speaking and helps you break through blocks by providing the necessary words and phrases. You can find plenty of stories and podcasts to shadow on thesterspeak.online, which are designed for beginners to help build fluency step by step. Another great way to overcome speaking blocks is through role-playing challenging situations that make you nervous, such as giving directions, having a job interview, or discussing complex topics. Practice these scenarios until they feel easier. For example, if you're anxious about giving a presentation in English, practice it aloud to yourself. The more you rehearse these difficult situations, the more confident you'll become when they arise in real life. Finally, breaking through speaking blocks requires a positive mindset. It's easy to feel frustrated when things don't go perfectly, but remember that progress is more important than perfection. Every time you speak, you improve, even if it doesn't feel that way. Celebrate small wins, such as completing a conversation or learning a new phrase, to keep your motivation high. A quote from Walt Disney sums it up perfectly. The difference between winning and losing is most often not quitting. If you keep practicing, even when it feels hard, you'll break through speaking blocks and become a more fluent, confident speaker. One effective way to do this is by practicing in real-life situations. Go to places like cafes, markets, or engage in online language exchanges where you can use English. The more you practice in real-world settings, the easier it becomes to overcome fear and hesitation. Speaking with native speakers is ideal, but if you don't know any, there are plenty of online platforms to connect with others who want to practice English. Remember, they're learning too, so there's no need to feel embarrassed about making mistakes. Breaking through speaking blocks isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about continuing to push through even when it feels tough. With techniques like self-talk, shadowing, role-playing, and maintaining a positive attitude, you can overcome hesitation and start speaking more confidently. Now that you've learned how to break through speaking blocks, let's explore how to find speaking partners to further enhance your fluency, even if you're practicing alone or live in an area where English isn't commonly spoken. Thanks for joining me today on my English channel. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with all our latest videos. Keep practicing, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Happy learning, everyone!